Nick is going to talk about the AHDB storage cost calculator, which we introduced a revised version of last year. And we just would like to take this opportunity to make you more aware of some of the features of it, so that you can use it to the benefit of your own businesses. So, Nick, please go ahead.
Thanks, Adrian. I can vouch for Michael's stores. I think I went to present a couple of years ago, and they were, I would say, very smart stores. Okay, so thanks everybody. Just realised the slides in your pack are pretty ineligible, I think. So we'll probably make them available, I guess, after the event. Just there's three things. Just wanted to spend a few minutes talking about the objectives of the storage calculator. Just one or two features, and then just show you two examples, two sort of different examples, and the laptop's here, and we can sort of show anybody, give you a demonstration if you'd like afterwards over lunch. So, pretty obvious objective really, help growers to understand their own costs. Michael's talked about his investment decision making before, and you know, we would suggest that this is one approach to sort of looking at investment appraisals. From a marketing strategy, we can't all do green top, so that's helpful to understand the cost of storage period and storage term, and when the best time to sell might be, and then obviously that's dependent on your attitude to risk. From a store management perspective, we were hoping that people would be able to cross-check their own costs against those in the tool and identify possible improvements, and also align their costs with those on the tool, or try and compare and calculate their own, whether it's sort of energy usage or store losses, for example. So, just a few of the key features. It's Excel based. The old version that was last updated in April in 2010 was sort of on a slightly different platform. We've tried to make this a little bit more user friendly. It's free and available on the AHDB website, and it's, as I say, it's Excel based, so hopefully it should be more familiar to most of you. And it's basically on a single page. We're trying to highlight the sort of key figures or costings for storage. The direct cash costs, electricity, which we would consider obviously directly related to the storage period. Finance, which again is directly related to the storage period, plus the cost of the capital tied up in the building. Repairs, which we would consider to be fixed sort of annual costs, so however long the crop's in store, you're probably going to incur a similar repair cost. And labour and machinery we would consider similar. So they're the sort of direct cash costs. In terms of non-cash costs, obviously there's depreciation, which we'll talk about and demonstrate in the model, and storage losses, which are, you know, we would consider weight loss and additional grading losses over and above what you would have graded out at sort of green top time. The other thing is just to compare field yield. So what would have been a sold yield or an estimated sold yield at green top sale and versus a stored yield. So having taken into account store losses. And then obviously there's, as with the costings model, the cost of production model, which allowed us to arrive at a sort of an automatic cost of production, we've done the same here. So there's a sort of an industry type costing, and then the idea is that you're able to put your own costs alongside. We're not necessarily saying that these costings are sort of top quartile as we do when we talk about cost of production, annual cost of production, but it's more about giving growers an indicative costing. So the first example I'm just going to show you, they're static screenshots because it's easier just to demonstrate, but as I say, we can show you afterwards any particular examples. But the first one, Prepack potatoes, cold stored, 1,500 tonne box store, long-term storage, September to June. Okay. So this is for the front page, or the only page really that you need to sort of undertake an initial analysis. The orange cells are the sort of data entry cells. If you complete all of the orange cells within reason, you'll arrive at an industry costing. So this example, as we said earlier, it's where, so you've got a choice of 3 drop-down boxes. This one is the where example. It's a fridge store, box, 1 tonne box capacity, so 1,500 tonne, 1,500 boxes. The estimated ex-field yield was 26 tonnes a hectare. We've included an interest rate of 1.5%. We can debate that, but that's what we've included in for now, and loaded in September and outloaded in June the following year. And a sort of an addition to the previous model was the pricing structure. Previously, there was no account taken of value added, if you like, by storage, whereas here we've allowed the opportunity to enter the possible sales price during the following months of storage. The sprout suppressant costing is when you're wanting to calculate manual storage costings. So having completed all of those, the only other entry required is the price in pence per kilowatt hours. Again, that's an addition from the last model because we were finding there was such a variation in contract pricing between businesses and growers, and also obviously with the solar panels and so on. People were wanting to take that into account when they were understanding their costings. Whether you should do or not is a separate discussion, but that's what some people were wanting to do. So we've also got 2 columns. One is the total store cost, because sometimes people would prefer to look at it on that basis, obviously all pounds a tonne. So labour and machinery, energy is calculated. Now the data, the sort of background data to energy use has been based on some work that was undertaken by the AHDB 2 or 3 years ago, looking at energy usage in a number of commercial stores. So we've sort of used that data to as the basis of this calculation. Store hygiene and sprout suppressant, as I say, these are industry sort of costings to give growers a feel or a steer for what their own costings in their own business might be. Depreciation is probably the area that we'll have most debate on as to whether it's a fair reflection. But what we've tried to include is take into account, if we looked at it on today's cost of build, as Michael said earlier, we'd probably be, probably double that figure, I would suggest, in terms of buildings and boxes and fixed equipment. But what we've tried to do is take a reasonable estimate of stores that have been built in the last 20 years based on most stores being written off over that period. Property repairs, again, it's quite helpful. If you look at it on a pounds total basis, we would say in that store, 1,500 tonne store, you're probably spending 4,500 in total in repairs, whether it be box repairs or plant repairs. And then in terms of working capital, we've just divided that into crop, overhead costs and building and fixed plant, mainly because some people might choose to acknowledge that if the store's already written off, that they might only want to take into account the crop working capital that's tied up during storage. So on that basis, that arrives at a calculated pounds a tonne stored of £45, all fully costed on a fresh yield of 26. We then need to allow for the calculated storage cost after losses, and you can see we've included in this example a rejection stroke pack out allowance of 7.5% and a weight loss storage and grade outs at store of 12%. Now, one of the other additions we put in this this update was to just make some provision for contract allowances. So in this example, we've assumed that there's a 5% allowance for pack out already in the contract price, for example. So the net result is there's a 14.5% reduction in total potatoes sold over that period. Having adjusted for that reduced saleable yield, the cost per tonne of sold tonnes is £60 a tonne, and obviously simply by adding the two together gives us a sort of a comparison against what we would expect to need to sell on an ex-field price comparison, as an ex-field price comparison. These two graphs are shown alongside the previous slide on the tool, and again, what we're just trying to demonstrate here is the red line is the total storage costs through the storage period before any crop losses in store, outgrades or weight losses, and the blue line is taking into account store losses and weight loss. So obviously the idea being the margin compared with off-field price, we want to see that orange line cross the blue line as soon as possible during the storage period, because we know then we're making a margin on our total cost. You can see obviously in this example when we get to June we've made a margin over our ex-field price. And obviously one of the things that this includes, on the graph on the right hand side, the total storage cost before losses in pounds per tonne, you can see there's a significant proportion of that cost is what we consider a non-cash, so whatever that is, £18 a tonne, which would bring it would cross the blue line if you ignored the depreciation, which many growers do. Many growers we've got written off stores, so we're using that. Doesn't feature anywhere in our financial accounts, so they're written off, and so it's often excluded from the calculation. So February, you might go positive in February. The other example is a processing example of ambient potatoes, bulk storage on a medium term basis, October through to March. Excuse me. And what we wanted to just show in this example was the difference between the industry costing and how one might approach it if you were to be wanting to understand your own costings in front of the model. So again, it's a processing crop, ambient stored, bulk potatoes, 1,000-tonne bulk store, 20 tonnes a hectare, fresh yield, saleable yield at harvest. Again, interest rate 1.5%, and October to March storage. We just come up with some example sale figures, and again, priced in this example, pence per kilowatt hour is 11 pence. So you can see, using this example, the overall cost based on a fresh yield is £33 a tonne, bulk storage through to March. And if you then take into account losses, which in this example amount to 12%, we are showing an overall cost per tonne sold of £45 per tonne on a sold yield of 17 tonnes per hectare. In this example, what we just wanted to show, as I say, is what the manual costs might be for an on-farm example. In this particular example, we've assumed a £4 a tonne labour and machinery cost, £2 for electricity. The sprout suppressant we've just worked out down here very crudely, 2 applications at £1.10 a tonne application. Now the depreciation, the big difference really we're just trying to show here is the difference in including and excluding depreciation. And in this example, we just assumed, for example, that in the last 5 years a new roller shutter door had been installed in the building, and then there'd been some upgrades on the fans. So I think we'd spent a few £1,000s, and that's the write-off of that new investment. Property repairs, again, we just allowed a slightly, it's an older building, so we're saying that probably it's slightly more, another £500 a year of property repairs just on operation and maintenance of the plant. And you can see in this example, you know, an on-farm written-off store, one might argue that the pounds a tonne stored is around about £12 a tonne, and then having adjusted for storage costs, we're at around £24 a tonne. So what we're really just trying to demonstrate is the difference between if these costs are drawn from our financial accounts or our financial records, management accounts, whatever, and there's no depreciation, then it can have quite a significant impact in overall cost. And if one was wanting to include sort of an opportunity cost or to allow for future replacement costs, then it's quite a significant difference. And again, the same graph really just demonstrates that in this example, we're just crossing the storage costs before losses, but we don't cover our costs against the ex-field price in that example. Very quickly, the depreciation that I just showed you 2 slides back, this is how you enter the manual depreciation. It's just a separate page in the workbook, but it's the only other page that there is, so it's if you want to add in extra your own costings, then it's very straightforward. Yep. See a demonstration here, just conscious of time, and also available, Phil's asked me just to plug the benchmark tool, the arable benchmark tool, which again has been updated sort of 12 months ago now, which is available again on the PCL website. Thank you.